Gentleman yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Good, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This hearing really should be called How Recent Government Policies Have Hurt Americans, Women Included, because it's hurt women just as much as every other American to have our most basic freedoms that we couldn't have imagined being under assault and under attack even just 2 or 3 years ago from what we've seen in the last couple of years. But our most basic freedoms, like our freedom of movement, our freedom to travel. Even today, we don't have true freedom to travel without wearing a mask. Our freedom of assembly, getting together. Heck, even in this room, we don't have everybody in the hearing room. They're doing it by Zoom. This Congress votes by proxy. We continue to use the China virus as an excuse to have these emergency provisions, which we all know are not necessary. Our most basic freedom just to earn a living, to operate our business, to go to work, to keep our job. Our freedom to worship, and our freedom to educate our children or have our children go to school and to be there in person. These have been trampled upon and harmed our children, harmed our families, harmed mothers, harmed women in general. History will judge us harshly by how we've sacrificed our children on the altar of politics over these last 2 years. You touched on it just a few moments ago, but the fact that we would close schools for children who are at almost no risk to the virus, for 2 years, kids are at home or trying to learn remotely when they're at almost no risk to the virus. We've treated everybody the same. We've treated children like senior citizens. We've treated college students like those with multiple comorbidity factors. How do we ever make up for these mothers, these women's children? How do we ever make up the lost learning for 2 years? So they graduate, what, with just 2 years less of school? Not to mention the developmental delay, the social delay, the emotional issues that have come in there. In my home county, we lifted the mask mandate, thankfully, finally. It should have never been in place. It's child abuse, to put a child in a mask all day long when we know masks don't make any difference. That's why no one who's been enforcing it all this time ever wears it when no one's looking. It's virtue signaling. I saw a doctor on CNN say, hey, it just shows what team you're on. It's virtue signaling. It just sends a message that you care when you wear your mask. But to do that to children all day long when they're almost no risk for the virus, and also we know from studies that masks don't make any difference. But in my home county of Campbell County outside Lynchburg in the 5th District of Virginia, half the kids are still wearing masks when they don't have to. Why? Because we've told them they're going to die from the virus. And they've gotten comfortable with this thing on their face. In the meantime, for women across this country, these policies that have made them less secure with the border invasion that we have not just allowed to happen, we've caused to happen by this government's policies, our weakness on the national stage, where as we look across the ocean to Ukraine, what's happening there, or the threat of China, the threat of North Korea, the threat of Iran, and the American weakness that's been projected, the massive spending that's robbing women, Americans, and families of their purchasing power, costing them thousands of dollars a year more now than it did previously, last year, just to buy the essentials. Grocery prices through the roof, gas prices through the roof, as we've declared war on American energy. These policies are harmful to women. The crime explosion in this country, undermining our police. Not to mention, we have fired women for not getting vaccines, not allowed them to keep their job as essential healthcare workers, not allowed them to stay in the military, not allowed them to stay in law enforcement, not allowed them to provide for the family, because we've taken away their right, again, trampled on their right to their most basic freedom of their own health decisions, and then we fired them if they didn't do what their government wanted them to do.